Hello everyone, this is Luna Celestine. In today's video, we're going to take a closer look at a particularly significant astrological moment, March 24th, 2025. This date marks the simultaneous retrograde motion of both Mercury and Venus, two planets that deeply influence some of the most personal and nuanced areas of our lives: communication, relationships, self-worth, and emotional expression. For those of you with Leo placements, this period holds important energetic shifts. I want to invite you to join me in the next part of this reading, where we'll explore how these planetary movements are likely to impact Leo specifically, from emotional patterns and creative flow to decisions that may be lingering in your heart or mind. If you've been feeling a bit delayed, introspective, or unsettled lately, you might be picking up on exactly what these retrogrades are stirring. Let's take a grounded, clear-sighted approach together and unpack what this means for you. Leo is a fixed fire sign ruled by the sun, the planetary body that governs identity, self-expression, creativity, and inner pride. If you carry strong Leo energy, you're likely no stranger to leading with your heart, to showing up fully, and to seeking a life that reflects your authentic self. But when key planets like Mercury and Venus turn retrograde, even the most radiant signs can experience moments of pause, reflection, and at times, disorientation. During this period, you may find yourself questioning how you've been showing up, not because you've done anything wrong, but because life is nudging you to check in. Are you still in alignment with what brings you joy? Are you acting from a place of inner truth? Or have you been performing for approval without realizing it? These are subtle shifts, but for a sign like Leo, they can feel significant. That internal friction, that quiet hesitation, it's worth listening to. In your relationships, old themes may resurface. A familiar dynamic might return, or perhaps someone from the past makes a brief appearance, not necessarily to stay, but to show you something about who you are now. If you're partnered, this could be a time where communication feels slightly off, or where you're both being asked to revisit unspoken truths. And when it comes to your goals, the dreams that once felt so vibrant, you might now be wondering whether they still carry the same weight. That's not a sign of failure, it's a sign of evolution. Sometimes the brightest light needs to dim for a moment, not to fade, but to refine its direction. I invite you to stay with me as we move into the next part of this reading, where we'll explore exactly how these retrogrades are shaping your path, emotionally, creatively, and spiritually. And as we go, I'd love for you to reflect. What part of yourself are you being asked to reclaim? What is your intuition quietly pointing you toward right now? Let's take a deeper look together. From March 24th to April 15th, 2025, Mercury enters a retrograde phase, beginning in Pisces and moving back into Aries, a transition that blends the emotional depth of water with the impulsive clarity of fire. For Leo, this particular retrograde touches on areas of expression, connection, and the mental space you occupy when you create, communicate, or collaborate. You may notice that conversations, especially with romantic partners, close friends, or creative collaborators, feel more tense or confusing than usual. Miscommunications are likely, not because you're being unclear, but because the emotional filters through which others are hearing you may be more reactive or foggy. Likewise, others may misread your intentions, leaving you feeling unseen or misunderstood. If that resonates, I want you to know it's temporary, and it's not a reflection of your worth or your effort. This is also not the ideal time to finalize contracts, launch new creative projects, or make long-term commitments in collaborative work. If you're in the process of planning something important, especially something that carries your unique voice or vision, this retrograde period is better suited for review and refinement than action. Take your time, let the inspiration come, but hold off on locking anything in. And here's something to sit with. What would it look like to express yourself, not to be understood, but simply to be present? Mercury retrograde often teaches us that clarity isn't always immediate. Sometimes it comes through stillness, through listening, or through allowing space for others to come back into alignment. In the next part of our reading, we'll explore how Venus retrograde is influencing your relationships, values, and sense of self-worth. But before we move on, I'd love to hear from you. Have you already started noticing signs of this retrograde in your conversations or creative flow? Let me know in the comments. I always love hearing your experiences, especially during these energetically charged times. Mercury's retrograde doesn't only stir the emotional and creative waters, it also extends its reach into your professional life and finances, especially for Leo, whose desire for recognition often intertwines with career ambitions and financial stability. During this time, work communication may feel unpredictable. Emails can be missed, instructions misinterpreted, or projects delayed without clear explanation. If you work in a field that involves writing, speaking, design, or negotiation, it's especially important to double-check everything, not just for accuracy, but for tone and timing. What you say and how it's received may not match, and in professional settings, that can make the difference between progress and confusion. Financially, Mercury retrograde is not ideal for initiating large purchases, investments, or entering into new financial agreements. You may feel an urge to act quickly, particularly as Mercury shifts from dreamy Pisces into impulsive Aries. But this is one of those times when slowing down could actually protect you. Instead, use this phase to reevaluate your budget, review past financial decisions, or revisit income streams that may have been left unexplored. For some of you, there may also be an opportunity to return to a professional idea, client, or creative direction from the past, something that didn't fully take off before, but might be worth refining now. If so, pay attention to what resurfaces. Mercury retrograde often brings things back for a reason. So, here's a question to carry forward. Where in your career or finances have you been pushing ahead without pausing to reassess? What would it feel like to give yourself permission to regroup before leaping forward? In the next part of our reading, we'll turn to Venus retrograde, a transit that speaks even more personally to Leo's heart, highlighting themes of love, value, and personal magnetism. Stay with me. The insights to come may help clarify what you're really working toward and why. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, values, and finances, begins its retrograde cycle during this same period, and for Leo, this can feel especially personal. When Venus moves backward in the sky, it invites us to turn inward and reassess what and who we truly value. And for a sign like Leo, whose heart is often wide open and invested, this can bring up powerful emotional undercurrents. In your relationships, you may begin to feel underappreciated or unseen. It's not necessarily that others are pulling away, but rather that your emotional needs are shifting, and what used to feel fulfilling might no longer resonate the same way. If you've been giving a lot without receiving, or compromising your truth for the sake of harmony, those patterns will become more visible now. Old relationships, especially ones that ended without full closure, may reappear, either literally through a message or an encounter, or symbolically through dreams, memories, or emotional echoes. These revisits aren't always about rekindling. Sometimes they're simply invitations to heal, to resolve unfinished emotional business, or to fully let go. Either way, it's a moment of emotional clarity, one that asks, are you holding on to something that no longer holds you? Financially, this retrograde also urges caution. Venus governs not only love, but also how we handle and relate to money. Avoid major purchases or investments if possible, especially ones driven by impulse or emotion. This is a better time for reviewing spending habits, revisiting long-term financial goals, or reconnecting with what truly brings value into your life, not just what looks good on the surface. Let me ask you this. In love and in money, are you moving from a place of alignment or from a place of longing? Are your current choices rooted in self-worth or in the fear of not having enough? In the next part of our reading, we'll move into deeper territory where we look at the combined energy of the Sun, Mercury, and Venus and what their alignment reveals about your next inner breakthrough. But before we go there, take a moment and reflect. What or who is asking to be released so that something more aligned can take its place? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Between March 22nd and 24th, we experience a rare and powerful conjunction. The Sun, your ruling planet if you're a Leo, aligns with both Mercury and Venus, while both are in retrograde motion. This is not just any alignment, it's a moment of energetic intensity, one that shines a concentrated light on your inner world. And for Leo, whose identity is deeply tied to the Sun, this is especially potent. What does this mean for you? It's a window of insight, one where self-reflection becomes not only possible but necessary. You may find yourself drawn inward, not out of isolation, but out of a deep need to understand what's truly driving you. In your career, in your relationships, in your creative life, are your current choices a true reflection of your values, or are they shaped by what you think you should be doing? This triple conjunction may bring an aha moment, a sudden, undeniable truth about who you are and what you actually want. It might feel humbling, even unsettling at first, because it may contradict the story you've been telling yourself or the path you've been pushing toward. But that's the beauty of this alignment. It offers clarity, even if that clarity comes through contrast. You may also become more aware of where your voice has been muted by others or by your own patterns. Mercury's retrograde can uncover the subtle ways you've been misunderstood or hesitant to speak your truth, while Venus retrograde brings forward the emotional weight of past connections or unresolved self-worth wounds. The Sun's role here is to illuminate all of it, not to shame, but to empower. So here's something to reflect on before we move forward. If you were to pause right now, step outside the expectations placed on you by others or by yourself, what would your heart choose? What would your voice say? In this period of layered retrogrades and deep inner shifts, Leo is being asked to do something that doesn't always come naturally, to slow down, and not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You don't need to shine at full wattage right now. In fact, this is a time to let yourself dim the lights just enough to hear what's coming from within. Let yourself rest, truly rest, not just pause between obligations, but intentionally create space to listen inward. When you're constantly in motion, it's easy to lose touch with what your heart is actually asking for. And right now, that quiet voice deserves your full attention. Writing can be a powerful practice for you in this season, whether it's a journal, a note in your phone, or even just a few sentences scribbled each day. Use it to capture what you're feeling, what you're noticing, and what's shifting within you. These insights, even the smallest ones, are pieces of a bigger story that's unfolding. This is also a moment to return to creativity, but not the kind that demands performance or applause. Return to the kind of creativity that feeds you. Paint, sing, write, design, not to impress, but to reconnect with what once felt joyful before it had to mean anything. Let yourself play again. And finally, protect your energy. You're generous by nature, often giving more than you realize, but right now, boundaries are essential. Not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Notice who or what drains you and give yourself permission to step back. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey, especially while you're still rediscovering your direction. If you're a Leo, born between August 10th and August 20th, this period may also bring heightened sensitivity not just emotionally but physically. And it's important to acknowledge how deeply interconnected your body and spirit are right now. The planetary retrogrades, especially with the Sun, your ruling planet, actively involved, can stir up subtle imbalances in your energy system that manifest through the body if not tended to with care. You might notice shifts in sleep patterns, waking up feeling mentally cluttered or physically unrested despite a full night's sleep. There may be moments of tension in the heart space, not necessarily in a clinical sense, but as a reflection of unspoken emotions that are looking for release. Headaches, digestive discomfort, or sudden dips in energy could all be signals that your system is asking for pause, grounding, and recalibration. Remember, Leo governs the heart not only as an organ, but as a symbolic center of vitality, joy, and inner alignment. When your emotional truth and your external life fall out of sync, your heart often feels it first. If you've been powering through obligations, trying to hold everything together for others, or pushing yourself to stay strong without space to exhale, your body may gently or firmly ask you to slow down. This is not the time to overextend yourself. Think of your well-being as a sacred container for everything you're processing spiritually and emotionally right now. Movement practices like gentle yoga, walking in nature, or even slow stretching in the morning can help regulate your nervous system. Hydration, rest, and simple grounding rituals like putting your bare feet on the earth or practicing deep breathing are small actions that can have significant impact. Be mindful of your boundaries, not just with people, but with the amount of noise, stimulation, and urgency you're absorbing from the outside world. Turning inward doesn't mean isolating. It means honoring the signals your body is giving you and responding with compassion rather than resistance. So, here's a question to carry with you. What does your body need in order to feel safe, steady, and supported right now? Sometimes, the most profound clarity comes not from thinking harder, but from softening, resting, and allowing your inner system to speak through sensation. As we move forward into the next season, the energy will begin to shift. But for now, let this be a time of gentle realignment with your body, with your emotions, and with the version of yourself that's quietly being reborn beneath the surface. If your birthday falls between August 10th and August 20th, the later degrees of Leo, you may feel the intensity of this period more strongly than others. That's because the planetary alignments we've been exploring are activating the middle to late part of your sign, where personal identity, emotional resilience, and creative expression converge in a more mature, crystallized form. For those of you born during this window, you're likely no stranger to carrying responsibility, not just for your own path, but often for those around you. You've grown through experience, not just enthusiasm. You've likely had to learn that true leadership isn't about being seen, but about holding steady when things around you feel uncertain. And in this retrograde-heavy period, that steadiness may be tested in subtle but meaningful ways. You might notice themes returning, situations you thought were resolved or emotions you assumed you'd already worked through. Conversations may repeat themselves. People from the past may resurface, not necessarily to stay, but to remind you of something about yourself that still needs your attention. These are not setbacks. They're invitations to refine, to realign, and in some cases, to release what no longer fits the person you've become. Creatively, you may feel a sense of restlessness, a knowing that something wants to emerge, but the usual channels don't seem to flow. Don't force it. Instead, allow yourself to experiment, to explore, to create without expectation. The pressure to produce can dim your natural light, but when you create from a place of presence, with no need to impress or define the outcome, you'll find that the spark returns. Emotionally, you may feel more sensitive than usual, and perhaps a little less willing to hide it. Let that be okay. The strength of this part of Leo is its emotional depth, its ability to lead with both fire and heart. This is a time to soften inward, to be more honest with yourself, and to ask, what am I holding on to that no longer serves the person I'm becoming? You're not meant to move through this time perfectly. You're meant to move through it with intention, with awareness, and most importantly, with compassion for yourself. As we close out this reading, I want to invite you to stay curious. Keep noticing. Keep listening. The clarity will come, not all at once, but in pieces, through the quiet moments and the unexpected signs. Trust that your light knows where to go, and in time it will lead you exactly where you're meant to be. As we close out this reading, I want to thank you, truly, for choosing to spend this time with me. These transits are not easy, and if you're still here, listening, reflecting, breathing through all the layers of what's rising, it tells me something about where you are on your journey. You're not here by accident. You're showing up for yourself in ways that matter, even when it's quiet, even when it's unseen. If you're a Leo, especially one born in those late degrees, know that what you're moving through right now is not a setback. It's a reorientation. The shifts in your relationships, your sense of purpose, even in your physical and emotional body, they're not signs of weakness. They're signs that you're evolving deeply, honestly, authentically. Take what resonated from this video and carry it with you gently. Leave what doesn't. This is your process, your rhythm, your healing. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what part of this reading spoke to you, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're releasing. We learn from each other here. This is a space where your voice matters. Until next time, take care of your energy, honor your heart, and trust that your light, even in its quietest moments, is still guiding you forward.